So good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on this warm Friday. Being nice, just warm. But this is a special day for us in standing up for the needs and the rights of the immigrant community of this city, of this state, of the nation. Right now, we have a piece of legislation that we are promoting that will further protect immigrants when seeking services in order to achieve the American dream of becoming citizens and being a full part of our society. Standing with me today is the sponsor of this legislation in the state Senate, Senator Ruben Diaz. With us is also Mr. Luis Lopez, the Vice Consul of the Ecuadorian Consulate, Wayne Ho for the Coalition of Asian American Children and Families, Alfredo Placeres from the New York State Federation of Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, Valeria Treves for New Immigrant Community Empowerment, and Eduardo Peñalosa for New Barrio. We also have Reverend Joel Bauza and Reverend Castillo, ministers from the New York Hispanic Clergy Organization, who are supporting us in this initiative. I'm State Assembly Member Marcos Crespo from Bronx County, the sponsor of the legislation in the Assembly. And what the Immigration Services Enforcement Act bill will do is simple. First, it will increase the existing penalties for fraudulent immigration service providers. Right now, the penalties stand at $7,500. This will raise the penalty to a minimum of $10,000, but also creates a new civil penalty for those that commit consumer fraud or false advertisement as part of their outreach in order to commit this fraud. But more importantly, what the bill will do is create a public registry within the Secretary of State's office for non-attorney immigration service providers. That registry will allow for clarity and transparency in terms of who is out in our communities offering services. It will ensure that the state has proper documentation as to who these individuals are and where they operate. And it will also ensure and let them know that we are watching and we are paying attention to who's providing the services and to which quality they are doing so in. Also, the aim of this legislation is to make that registry available to the public so that when immigrants go out looking for services, they can ensure that the individual offering those services to them is legitimate, is educated in these matters, and is registered with the state to do so. As part of that, that certificate that this registry would have is something that they could then place on their storefront, on their window, in their office. Basically creating a trademark or a logo that consumers can recognize, knowing that they are now going to get services from a legitimate provider. And that's what the legislation will do. We need this now because, as you know, there is immigration reform on the horizon. Washington is closer than ever to a tangible immigration reform package. All indications are that while there are some roadblocks still to deal with, something could get done by the end of this year. And so for us at the state level, with only just over 24 legislative days left, this piece of legislation has already passed the Assembly unanimously, and now we need the Senate to take action, and we need the governor to ensure and come out in support so that when the bill gets to his desk, he will sign it right away, and we could put in place the best consumer protections possible for the immigrant communities of this state. Bien rapidito en español, soy el asambleísta Marcos Crespo, auspiciador en la asamblea de esta pieza de ley. Conmigo está el senador Ruben Diaz, auspiciador en el Senado, y un sinnúmero de líderes de los que van a escuchar de diferentes organizaciones comunitarias que trabajan con los inmigrantes. Estamos aquí para pedirle al Senado del Estado y al gobernador que salgan fuertemente a favor de esta pieza de ley que ya fue autorizada en la Asamblea unánimemente. Esta pieza va a hacer dos cosas en particular. Número uno, incrementar las penalidades para aquellos que cometen fraude. Número dos, crear un registro público a través del secretario de Estado de quiénes son los proveedores de servicios migratorios. Al igual que hacer esa información disponible a la comunidad a través de un registro público y también dándoles a estos proveedores un sello que van a poder auspiciar en sus oficinas, dándole a entender a los consumidores de que pueden ir en confianza a buscar servicios porque estas personas están registradas con el Estado. So that's what we're here to do, and now I'll present the sponsor of this legislation in the State Senate, State Senator Ruben Diaz.
Gracias, Marco. Gracias. It is important for us to know that, as Marcos says, the Assembly already passed this bill. This is a damn good bill. And Marcos and the Assembly members, they already did their part. Now the Senate, Senator Dist and the member of the Senate, they have to move to approve this legislation. About 11 million of undocumented people are about to get their papering orders. So there are people out there feeding, abusing. There are people out there looking for all kind of opportunity to take down the American dream of the immigrant. So what we're doing, practically preparing for the future. If you read the Diario La Prensa today, there is an article of what happened to the immigrants, how many millions of dollars has been taken down out of the immigrant. So that's what we're trying to avoid. En pocas palabras, lo que estamos tratando de hacer es, primeramente quiero darle las gracias al asambleísta Marcos Crespo porque ya la asamblea aprobó esta pieza de ley. Nosotros sabemos que el Senado, como el Congreso americano, como dijo Marcos, está a punto de aprobar la reforma de migración. Y estamos viendo que hay mucha gente que abusa y que trata de destruir el sueño americano de los inmigrantes. Los usan, los abusan y le llevan el dinero. Esta pieza de ley va a terminar con eso. Si podemos leer en el Diario de la Prensa de hoy, estaba diciendo que hay un artículo donde podemos ver los abusos que se han cometido y cómo el fiscal del Estado ha tratado de evitar eso y está tratando de evitar eso. Pero con la pieza de ley que nosotros tenemos, les garantizamos que esto va a dar un término total, porque van a haber penalidades más fuertes y además el público va a estar bien apercibido porque va a haber un sello en la puerta de los negociantes que está autorizado por el gobierno, por el Estado, para poder tratar con los inmigrantes. Si el público no ve ese sello, pues no entra a trabajar, no entra en sus papeles ahí porque va a tener problemas. So that is important. So, gracias Marcos, y aquí estamos aquí para pedirle a los senadores, al senador Dist y a los miembros del Senado y al gobernador que quedan poquitas semanas, apenas 3 semanas para concluir la sección y queremos que esto se dé antes de concluir la sesión. Muchas gracias, Marcos.
Thank you, Senator. You know, with regards to these issues, we always say that immigration reform is about bringing the millions of immigrants out of the shadows. This legislation will also ensure that we bring the providers out of the shadows as well. Siempre cuando hablamos de reformas migratorias decimos que la reforma se necesita para traer a estos inmigrantes que salgan de las sombras. Pues esta pieza de ley quiere traer a los proveedores de servicios también fuera de las sombras y a la luz pública. Right now I want to welcome Mr. Luis Lopez, the Vice Consul of the Ecuadorian Consulate in the state of New York.
Okay, thank you, Senator Diaz. Thank you, Assembly Member Crespo. For us, knowing that an immigration reform is coming is very important for our people to know about the legal assistance providers, the legal assistance providers, in order to get the service and get accurate information in order to process their applications. For us, it's very important to support causes like the Assembly Member Marcos Crespo and the Senator Ruben Diaz, because these kind of initiatives will provide a legal environment in which the legal services providers can be registered and and therefore we can inform to our communities about the providers could give our immigrants the information that they need. We need to prevent the fraud. We need to stop fraud abuse by people who abuse of the lackness of information in our communities. So this bill is important for us in the general efforts of guide to our communities to get a regular status in their situation. So I thank the Assembly Member Marcos Crespo and Senator Ruben Diaz for this opportunity, and I will give all the support necessary for the effort to stop fraud, and to give the most true information to our immigrants, knowing that having accurate information is so important to our immigrants to avoid fraud and to give them more opportunities to grow in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Right now we're also going to hear, and to show the diversity of this issue, this isn't just a Latino issue. It's an issue that affects all new American communities across the state of New York. But right now we want to welcome Wayne Ho from the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families. Wayne.
Thank you very much, Assembly Member, and thank you to Senator Diaz. It's my pleasure to be here today to say that this legislation is important for New York State, for New York City. We know that if you care about children and families, then you care about passing this legislation. If you care about the economy of New York, then you'll care about this legislation. If you care about the future of New York, then you'll care about this legislation. We're happy that the Assembly has passed it, and now we are asking for leadership from the Senate side to follow through on what Senator Diaz has proposed and pass this legislation now, and we need the governor to sign it into law once it's passed. We know comprehensive immigration reform is going to happen, but New York State cannot wait. New York has always been on the forefront of supporting immigrants, and we want to see that happen by making sure there's not going to be immigration fraud. 2 out of every 3 New Yorker is an immigrant or a child of immigrants. In the Asian American community, about 4 out of every 5 is a foreign-born person. And that's why this legislation is important. We need to make sure that these New Yorkers who are contributing to the economy, working hard, supporting their families, know their options and know how to get out of the shadows and become part of society here and fully participate. They're already paying their taxes, they're already working hard, they're the one helping us pull ourselves out of the recession, and we can't wait any longer for comprehensive immigration reform to happen in DC. We need New York State to take action now. Pass this legislation in the Senate. We ask the governor to sign it into law. Concurrently, we need to make sure there's still leadership in New York City. And that's why during these budget times, when they're talking about restoring budget initiatives, we also ask the City Council and the Mayor to restore fully the Immigrant Opportunities Initiative, which will support immigrant-led organizations and nonprofits to provide immigrant services. And we also need adult literacy to be fully restored. So we make sure that immigrants have the opportunities to learn job skills as well as to learn English. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne. Now we're going to welcome Valeria Treves from the New Immigrant Community Empowerment.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Good afternoon. My name is Valeria Treves. I'm the Executive Director of NICE, New Immigrant Community Empowerment. We're a community-based organization in Jackson Heights, Queens that represents newly arrived low-wage immigrants. Our organization works in coalition with other workers' organizations throughout the city and throughout the state. Substandard, predatory, and fraudulent practices by immigration service providers and also by unscrupulous attorneys are rampant in our community and in many immigrant enclaves like the one that I work in. They are leading not only to monetary loss, but also to great distress and broken dreams amongst immigrant communities. My organization published a research piece last year called Dreams and Schemes in Queens, New York, where we documented the practices locally on Roosevelt Avenue of immigration service providers. We found that these providers are using misleading signs that suggest that they're attorneys when they're not. They are giving legal advice when they are not authorized to give legal advice. And they're collecting fees for work that they are actually not performing. In addition, well, we found that 23% of them advertise that they provided legal advice when they're not authorized. And absolutely none of them, the ones that we researched through our mystery shopping, had the appropriate not an attorney sign as mandated by law. Quiero decir unas palabras en español. Mi nombre es Valeria Treves, soy directora ejecutiva de la organización NICE, New Immigrant Community Empowerment, en Jackson Heights, Nueva York. Mi organización hizo un estudio sobre las prácticas fraudulentas de los proveedores de servicios de migración en nuestra comunidad en Queens, y este es un problema muy grave que afecta a la comunidad inmigrante. Esto puede llevar no solo a pérdida monetaria, sino también a la destrucción de las aspiraciones y los sueños de nuestra comunidad inmigrante. Le voy a dar 5 señas de que quizás usted está siendo víctima de un fraude. Primero de todo, si usted está tratando con su proveedor de servicios en efectivo, o sea en cash, quizás usted es víctima de un fraude. El gobierno no acepta efectivo y los cheques tienen que estar escritos a USCIS. Esas son las siglas del gobierno. Entonces, si usted está tratando en efectivo con su proveedor de servicios, es posible que usted esté siendo víctima de fraude. También, si su proveedor de servicio le está ofreciendo garantías, también es posible que usted sea una víctima de un fraude. Con inmigración no hay garantías. Los abogados le van a preparar su caso lo mejor posible, pero nadie le puede garantizar un buen resultado. Si le están diciendo 100% garantía, puede ser que haya un fraude ahí. Tercero, si le ofrecen algo que parece demasiado bueno para ser realidad, probablemente lo es. Es importante saber que en este momento no ha pasado ninguna reforma a las leyes migratorias y que hay que esperar hasta que estas reformas se den para empezar nuestros trámites. No hay ninguna lista de espera y no hay ninguna forma de avanzar el trámite en este momento. Ese es un cuarto punto. Si le dicen que tienen una conexión directa con el gobierno o una lista de espera, probablemente sea un fraude también. No existen esas listas de esperas aquí en este país. 2 cositas más breves. Si usted está haciendo sus trámites con el proveedor de servicio de migración en un sitio informal, fuera de una oficina, un McDonald's, en una casa, quizás también usted está siendo víctima de fraude. Por último, si usted no tiene un contrato, quizás también usted es víctima de un fraude. Se le recomienda que vaya con un abogado recomendado, y si no es un abogado, que sea una organización sin fines de lucro que está acreditada por el BIA. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Valeria. You know, fraud we know is happening. We've seen it happen. We've seen the enforcement. We can't continue to wait for the Attorney General to investigate a particular situation, egregious situation, and go after what has already occurred. What we're looking for is protections to prevent it from happening in the first place. And that's really the mission of this legislation. Now we're going to hear from Alfredo Pláceres from the New York State Federation of Hispanic Chambers of Commerce.
Muchas gracias. Quiero dar las gracias al asambleísta Marcos Crespo y senador reverendo Ruben Diaz, porque están actuando ahora cuando tienen que actuar, porque después que uno está estafado ya no hay remedio. Se nos están dando el remedio que necesitamos. Yo me acuerdo en 1986, cuando pasaron la última ley, la reforma de ese año, cuántas personas fueron estafados por no tener una ley como esta. Es muy importante que esto lo apoye a todo el mundo, que llamen sus representantes y que esta ley la pasen. Después que uno pierde su dinero con estos estafadores, ya no se puede resolver el problema. Cuando se anuncian como notarios, expertos, licenciados, ya saben que es un engaño, porque esas personas no están autorizados para representar a nadie con asuntos de inmigración. Le quiero felicitar a nuestros representantes por actuar ahora cuando se tiene que actuar. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. This is a diverse coalition of groups or organizations that believe that this is the right thing to do and the time to do it. Now we're going to hear from Reverend Joel Bauza from Bronx County, a representative of the New York Hispanic Clergy Organization.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Assembly Member Marcus Crespo. Thank you, Senator Diaz, for being here and supporting this bill. Very quickly, my name is Reverend Joel Bauza, pastor, senior pastor of Calvary Church in the Bronx, and also representing one of the largest Latino-run clergy organizations, over 125 Latino pastors. And in our congregations, we have a number of immigrants that come weekly and assemble weekly in our churches. And they all usually have the same issues when it comes to immigration. They're paying too much money out to fraudulent companies, fraudulent lawyers, attorneys that claim they can help, and yet there is no help. This is an ongoing a cry for help from our congregations that are calling on our pastors and calling on our elected officials to say, help us, please. I really want to appeal to you today to really push your elected officials to make sure that they can make a phone call to Albany so they can push this bill through. It's going to help our people. In my family, my stepfather was Ecuadorian. My uncle married a Guatemalan woman. We understand the struggles that we face or that they face on a daily basis with the lack of work and jobs and with everything that's going on. It took them lots of money to try to get legalized. And yet we found out many years later that it was just money getting wasted because the people who were helping had no ties to the government to make it happen. This is an ongoing practice. This needs to stop. This needs to stop, and we're speaking to everyone out there who's doing these fraudulent practices, these fake attorneys, these fake representatives of the government. We are behind you. We know where you're at. We're going towards you. This is going to stop. We need to stop the abuse. And New York is the place where every immigrant, in fact, New York is a city of immigrants, and we should do everything we can to help our people. These are our people. These are our family members. As a minister that I am, that minister to them weekly, I'm here to say that my prayers are with this bill. My prayers are with Marcus. My prayers are with the state senator. We are going to do everything we can, but we need you to join with us and make this happen. God bless you, and our prayers are with you, Marcus Crespo. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of more partners to hear from. Right now, I'll call Silvia Mata from the League of United Latin American Citizens, LULAC.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot to come in here to take your time for this very important matter. Just in New York, 2,336,000 Hispanic people. From there, more than 600 people is undocumented. We need to act now in order to pass this law that Mr. Crespo is passing today. Well, it's passing to the Senate because immigration laws are running very, very fast. By June or August, we have to have immigration laws passed. So we asking the support for all the Latino organizations, the Latino community, in order to stop the fraud in the immigration process. It's already extend process that it had to be and pass this proposal. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. And last but not least, we have Eduardo Peñalosa from the New Barrio organization.
Good afternoon. My name is Eduardo Peñalosa. I would like to thank Assemblyman Marcos Crespo for the invitation, and also State Senator Ruben Diaz for this great opportunity to express my concern along with all my companions here about what's going on in our community. I'm the president and founder of a new organization called New Barrio East Harlem. It's located in East Harlem because in that region of Manhattan is where most of the 50,000 Mexicans that live in Manhattan, live. So this is what's going on up there. But before that, for 10 years, I was the coordinator of educational affairs at the Mexican consulate here in New York City. So I can attest firsthand to what's going on in terms of fraudulent services against our constituencies. It's, I can tell you that I can locate at least 3 big areas of risk. The first one is this overhyped enthusiasm for immigration reform. As you can imagine, this is hitting hard in many hearts of young and old people here that have been working as struggling as students, as menial workers, as all professionals that now have the opportunity for the first time in many years, in 2 decades, to actually dream the American dream with some substance. And they're going to be prey of this, they're going to continue to be prey upon this overhype, over-enthusiasm. The second one is the misinformation, the lack of information. This is something that's pervasive, but it's not only a problem for the service, the person who's taking the service, but also for the service provider. We live in a very complicated system. As member of the council, I remember that every single day I would hear of 1 or 2 organizations that were out there that seemed in paper and online, they seemed great, fantastic, but you never know. I mean, it's ongoing. It's incredible the amount of instances of institutions and organizations, NGOs, even governments, local, national and international governments that are willing to prey on the, this situation of immigration reform and policy. So, and the third area of concern for me is the confusion that can arise between unity and coordination. I don't think that, I'm not a huge believer in the unity of a cause. I think that all of us here have somehow different types of causes in our institutions, organizations, but we need to be coordinated nevertheless, because the threat that is coming, that is present, that is real, requires that this coordination surpasses any other difference that can arise among us. So I invite you and I urge the state governor, Cuomo, and the state Senate to pass this initiative, because it's going to be important for the immediate future and present of our communities. Thank you.
So to close, we just want to again thank all the organizations that have come out in support. The bill has passed the State Assembly unanimously for the 2nd year in a row. We just did it in the Assembly this week. And now again, we're calling on the Senate to take action on the bill before the close of this legislative session, and for the governor to sign this legislation so that we could improve upon some of the best consumer protections that the country will have, nowhere else in the country will have, right here in the state of New York, to protect our new Americans from going through this process, from becoming full citizens, from being a full part of our community, and doing so and not wasting this opportunity, not wasting their life savings on fraudulent services. This is a consumer protection issue. This is a justice issue. This is a fairness issue. And this is an issue of being proactive to prevent the problem instead of just waiting for it to happen to then tell a victim, we'll see what we can do for you.
Damos las gracias, ya que tú eres un batallador de mil batallas que siempre defiende a nuestra gente que no tienen voz. Junto al senador Rev Ruben Diaz, hoy trae una propuesta para que nuestra gente no sean estafados cuando tengan problemas de migración.
Sí, de eso se trata. Sabemos que un sinnúmero de residentes han sido víctimas de fraudes por proveedores fraudulentos. Esta pieza de ley requerirá, incrementa las penalidades por este tipo de fraude y a la vez crea un registro público para permitir que los consumidores sepan que si van a un proveedor, ese proveedor está calificado para dar ese servicio y no perder la oportunidad de volverse ciudadano. De eso se trata. Esto es una protección del consumidor, una pieza de ley importante y la tenemos que hacer antes de que se dé la reforma migratoria federal.
Marco, ¿tú crees que con este proyecto afectan muchos intereses de personas que van a hacerle daño a nuestra comunidad?
Yo no estoy aquí para proteger los intereses de negocio de nadie, estoy aquí para proteger a la comunidad y a los consumidores. Yo creo que todo el que quiera hacer su servicio de la manera legal y adecuada tiene todo el derecho de hacerlo y los vamos a ayudar y promover. Pero todo aquel que va a defraudar a nuestra comunidad, que sepa que estamos pendientes.
Es siempre que usted sepa que los asambleístas, Marco Crespo está trabajando para defenderle a usted que no se habla inglés, a usted que no tiene documento. Porque hay muchas oficinas que lo engañan y lo estafan. Gracias Ruben Díaz y gracias Marco Crespo por este proyecto de ley para nosotros. Llévatelo, papá.
Llévatelo, papá. No te muevas. Déjalo ahí con Carlos de la Vega.
Contrato con el show de Carlito La Vega de la alcaldía, nos encontramos con el senador Rev Ruben Diaz, es un hombre que siempre trabaja por nuestra comunidad, junto al asambleísta Crespo, un proyecto de ley para evitar que nuestra gente que no tiene voz sean estafados cuando van a una oficina de inmigración a buscar una información. Senador, le damos las gracias por apoyar a nuestra gente.
Gracias, Carlito. Aquí estoy hoy con el reverendo Joel Bauzá, un luchador también, un fajador, un hombre que se faja también por los inmigrantes y por la comunidad. Y estamos aquí porque esta pieza de ley, lo que estamos haciendo es pidiéndole al gobierno y al Senado que apruebe esta pieza, que lo que hacemos es obligar a cada persona que trata con inmigrantes a que sea inscrito y registrado en el gobierno. Si no está inscrito, si no tiene una licencia del gobierno para tratar, no puede bregar con el migrante o va a ser castigado penalmente. Porque el fraude, la corrupción, el abuso que se comete con los inmigrantes, personas que dicen que saben, que son abogados y que son de los otros, y vienen y le llevan el dinero a los inmigrantes y los dejan guindados, como decimos nosotros. Queremos terminar con eso, especialmente ahora sabiendo que si el Congreso de Estados Unidos aprueba la reforma de inmigración, más de 11 millones de personas van a estar buscando quién haga los papeles.
Y es muy fácil de engañarlos.
Ah, no, eso va a ser, van a estar buitres allá afuera esperando que caiga eso. Entonces queremos evitar a todo eso y proteger al inmigrante, los que están ahora, y proteger los que próximamente puedan ser víctimas. Solamente con eso. Imagínate tú que ahora el inmigrante está buscando quién haga los papeles. Entonces va a un sitio y entrar a esa oficina tiene el sello del Estado que nosotros estamos pidiendo.
¿Está garantizado?
Está garantizado. Ahora entra a una oficina que no tiene nada de eso y le llevan los chavos.
Lo estafan.
Lo estafan.
Por al lado suyo tenemos un hombre que ha trabajado mucho por la comunidad, no hoy ni ayer, mucho tiempo, también es reverendo, nuestro Joel Bauzá. Te damos las gracias, Joel, por parar tus obligaciones y como siempre lo ha hecho, venir a luchar por la gente que no tienen voz aquí a Downtown, aquí en la Calinata.
Así es. Bueno, como dijo el senador, estamos aquí luchando por el pro inmigrante, por los abusos que existen. Yo como pastor lo veo todos los días en mi iglesia. Veo los que se congregan, los feligreses míos que siempre están luchando porque quieren ser legal y ellos van y a diferentes oficinas donde dicen que lo pueden ayudar y después luego regresan a mí diciéndome, me pidieron X cantidad de dinero y todavía no hemos recibido nada. Y ese es el grito constante de nuestra comunidad. Y ese abuso tiene que parar. Y por eso estamos aquí.
Y ahora que tú estás corriendo como concejal del 15, que según vemos en la calle ya tú ganaste, falta la reglamentación. Ya con el poder de un concejal tendrá más protección nuestra gente que no tienen voz en la calle de Nueva York.
Bueno, eso así, porque en nuestro distrito 15 tenemos un % de un 78% que son inmigrantes. Y de ese 78% hay como 18 a 19% indocumentados que representan miles de personas que están buscando ayuda. Y por eso queremos que lo que Crespo y lo que el senador han dicho y han puesto en el piso del Senado que pase, porque eso va a asistir a nuestros inmigrantes, eso va a ayudar a nuestra gente para legalizarse, para hacer esos papeles. ¿Por qué? Porque están pagando tax, ellos tienen trabajos legales, pero sin embargo el estatus de ellos es donde está en quiebra ahí, es donde está guindando en el aire. Y bueno, con esta pieza de ley que se va a poner y se va pidiéndole a Dios que el gobernador lo firme, eso va a ayudar a todos nuestros inmigrantes a tener la ayuda necesaria para legalizarse aquí en este país.
Gracias por estar en el show de Carlito La Vega. Con Joel Bauzá como concejal, con Iris Salgado como alcalde y Pedro Álvarez como concejal, junto al senador Rev Ruben Diaz y Crespo, los latinoamericanos tendremos mejor nación. Y Ruben Diaz Jr., por supuesto. Llévatelo, papá.